Well, welcome to another edition of Willow World, Kevin. Great to see you today.
No, Josh, it's terrific to be back with you. I'm just sorry we're not in the same park in Sydney like we were, nearly a year ago. But thank you for having me and for Brookfield Properties.
Oh, look, so good to be here, Kevin. How are you? So much has changed since last year. How are you feeling?
I think anybody that tells you that they're doing great is probably not quite straight up. It's been a challenging 6-9 months. It's not just the COVID pandemic and all of the disruption it's caused to family life, to people's lives who have lost loved ones, to to work, but also we're in a global recession. So economic hardship, and there's been social unrest, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. So there's been a lot of challenges to overcome, and I think it's the kind of point in history where business models, cultural leftovers, like not treating people well, and things like technology that were on their way to obsolescence are getting there faster. We've seen that with a lot of retail around the world. But companies who have been thinking hard about how to take advantage of what's new in the world. And I'll look at social media and e-commerce for many of the big retailers. Walmart, for example, had their best, a huge growth in e-commerce announced about 3 weeks ago. So for those companies, for those people, for those organizations who have the courage to work hard and try hard and work with others during a period of time like this, have an opportunity to make a difference.
And Kevin, one of the unique things that at Brookfield is obviously you're heavily invested in property, and you're in one of the leaders in Brookfield Properties, and you have experienced certain crises before. You're downtown New York. It'd be great for our listeners to hear how you responded at Brookfield to a previous crisis, and what were the lessons from that crisis that you might be able to apply today as we look into what is a real challenging time for property.
Yeah, it's a great question, perspective, Josh. Our New York City properties, particularly the ones located in Lower Manhattan, are directly across the street from the World Trade Center site. So in 9/11, which we're quickly coming up on, we had to rise above the fear and anxiety, and show that the built environment, that community could be better following the attack and the tragic occurrence than it was before. And we've been able to be a participant in that as part of a big public-private collaboration. Beyond that, I guess it's an advantage in a situation like this to have been through several economic cycles.
Yes.
Late 80s, mid 90s, 2000 with the tech bubble bursting, the 2008 recession. I mean, we've been through as an organization and our leadership team challenging times before. And so, we've got the courage, the strength, and the experience to make sure that we get through these times stronger than we were before as well, I believe.
Yeah, it's one of the features of meeting you many years ago and just hearing the story of Brookfield Place, as you say, just across the road from 9/11, and the re-emergence of downtown New York, the public spaces that were created, and the courage to move forward. Kevin, just in terms of the season we're in today, and looking at Brookfield, I was reading your CEO's report to shareholders a few days ago, and you talked about keeping calm and carrying on. What is the plan for Brookfield? How are you responding to your tenants not being in the buildings as much as they were before, the fear of coming back to the office? What's been your response?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, around the world, we've been following local and other jurisdictional laws and regulations. But for the vast majority of our assets, we have not closed. Some of the retail in particular needs to be closed because of regulatory requirements. But our office buildings, our multifamily high-rise, et cetera, industrial properties have remained open. And we feel, number one, it's important to do that in order to stay strong through time like this. And we've also, as employees, been back to the office as soon as laws and regulations will allow us to. I think one of the observations many people have agreed with us on, and I've said this often, is that it's no easier to work virtually all the time than it is to teach our children, whether they're in nursery school and kindergarten all the way through college and higher levels of education. You can't learn everything virtually, nor can we work as effectively virtually all the time as we can. We're social beings. We need to have physical proximity to one another in order to really be able to be creative to make a difference.
Yeah, so true. And that urbanisation trend that you've been talking to me about and we've been sharing for a number of years now, that's continued for the last 20 years. I know you at Brookfield see that continuing on. We are creatures of habit. We like humanity. We like density. We enjoy restaurants. We enjoy the experience of seeing other people. So, that takes courage, particularly when you're seeing 10% vacancy rates from what I hear in New York City at the moment. Kevin, you've been passionate about technology as well. And you mentioned at the top of our discussion today, companies like Walmart and others that have responded very well to the crisis because of their adaptability, their ability to be able to adapt to a new season. How are you seeing technology for Brookfield moving into a season like we're seeing today and then moving forward into 2021?
Well, we're using the crisis as a means of accelerating our ability to test, adopt, and deploy tools that might not have had as much, relevance nor even, consideration before. We're working with Willow and Microsoft and others on creating digital twin for one of our largest state-of-the-art office buildings, One Manhattan West here in New York, and that project is going very, very well. We're also testing new health and wellness offerings through technology platforms, whether it's being able to identify and measure people's use of PPE, whether it's masks or social distancing or thermal scanning, and so we have a strong sense of conviction that, particularly as the regulations have allowed more medicine to be practiced via technology and media and not having to be face to face, that there'll be increasing opportunities for applications within mixed use complexes, office buildings, high rise multifamily, where we can deliver health and wellness offerings as an example beyond traditional building services.
Yeah, you touch on a great point there, that this season's a season to look at how we might transform and move forward. And it's been wonderful for Willow to be able to be in that position with you, Kevin, and at Brookfield and your colleagues at Brookfield. You're actually staring into this opportunity and saying, right, how can we leverage this season? Rather than being a victim of the situation, you're looking to turn it around and go, right, let's use this time, let's use this season to transform, to digitally transform. Kevin, one of the observations that I've made over the years, particularly in 2017, and seeing New York City, was that approach you've taken to traditional competitors to bring them together and look at a rising tide floating all boats, or that idea that you could work together with your traditional competitors to create impact. Could you talk about that and what impact you see in bringing together like-minded groups?
Yeah, so Josh, it's a great point. We've been working with other regional and global real estate owner-operators, developers for the last 3+ years, very actively.
Yes.
Some of it began around us co-investing in new emerging business platforms. Convene is one of them, Industrious, another, two flexible workspace providers. We've gone on to invest in Honest Buildings, which was acquired by Procore, on VTS. So these digital platforms that bring both efficiency to a function that historically has been a manual function, as well as the opportunity to gather immense amounts of data and begin to use this data to create value, drive change. We were very active in the evaluation of many of these new businesses, but found that there were a number of like-minded owners that had similar cultures that became good partners. And so what we began to do is trade, our thoughts and ideas and collaborate around that. We will continue to compete fiercely for new property, new assets, for capital, for people. But when it comes to adopting these new ways of doing business together, we found that there's strength in numbers, and that together we can make things happen a lot faster and more effectively than we can individually.
Yeah, great point. And for a company like Willow, it's been really helpful, Kevin. And I know for peers of ours, competitors of ours, just being able to work with like-minded owners together to create change. One of the biggest challenges I feel for the partner side or the provider side is there's that death by pilot, by being this constantly having to go through pilots. By working together with yourself and others, it's been great to see that momentum. I think one such example of that is the work that you and Dean Hopkins, Michael Turner from Oxford and Brookfield are doing together, and then bringing ourselves and Microsoft into that mix. We created together the Digital Twin Initiative on the back of the work we've been doing with you on One Manhattan West. Yes. And that vision, of course, is to deliver impact across the whole portfolio. So looking at a digital portfolio. Kevin, what have been the things that have impressed you in that process, and what's your vision for that? How could we articulate that vision to our viewers?
Well, the real estate industry, overall is a slow adopter to change. Yeah. Part of the reason is because when we design and build an office building or a large shopping center, a high-rise multifamily tower, a big logistics center, it's built for the long run, for 30, 40, 50 years plus. And so it's very difficult to then go back and change how we operate and manage it. And the people who are responsible for the operations and the management of those facilities, the engineers, the facilities managers, are they're great at what they do. They've got years or decades of experience doing it. So change comes hard. And so the implementation or the addition of these technology platforms like Willow are ones that it takes courage for, particularly these people who are responsible for making sure that elevators don't crash, that boilers don't blow up, that things are done on budget and on time. It takes courage to change. And so what we've done is working with Oxford and some others, Microsoft in particular with Willow, is look for common lessons learned, so that the fear of the unknown gets diminished as we learn together and show that the alternative to not changing is a much better outcome.
Yeah, and for Willow, it's been wonderful because you've been able to put dedicated people on this initiative. I'm thinking of some of your asset managers and your facilities managers, but also yourself. And so right from the top, and then over at Oxford as well, we've been able to create that momentum that's required for change and digital enablement. I remember when we first met, you were talking to me about how just finding leasing information, like finding who are your top companies in terms of your tenants, and then you're going to find them at your fingertips. And I think this season, from what I'm seeing, Kevin, it's an opportunity to look at, we need to see that information in real time. We need to see it across our whole portfolio, not just on one building. And so I feel the challenge that we still are working on with you and with Oxford and Oxford and Microsoft, is how do we do this on the brownfield and the greenfield, on the new and the old, and then bring it together in terms of a digital portfolio. And that's the big challenge. And I feel like it's a challenge we're all sort of weighing in on, we're working together on, because the benefits for all parties will be great. Hey, Kevin, one of the great features of working with you is that friendship and the relationship, the joy of working together. And what would you say to the younger people, your colleagues, about leadership and about this season, and how could you, I suppose, express your heart to them as the way you would express to me, just in terms of encouraging them?
I think, Josh, you're getting to the heart of the matter that takes us all the way back to this pandemic. that we're all battling across the world, and that the strength of relationships and trusted relationships is the key to making a difference in the world. And so it takes time, it takes experiences together, it takes taking risks together. And so we're seeking to overcome some pretty established obstacles, but to come up with some transformative differences and changes in how the built world can operate, and going from physical inspections to having a command center to look at things, to having to do due diligence and acquisition or financing of a building and figuring it all out forensically, to having a fully audited digital trail from the beginning of the building's inception.
Yes.
Power usage, warranties, maintenance of the properties. It offers the opportunity to significantly increase the value of the property because of the available information. But we're not going to get there in one step. It's going to take a series of steps, and it's going to take many organizations working together, trusting one another, and taking some chances together.
Yeah, you're on there, Kevin. Your words are ringing true for me, and I know for many of our viewers, and that is that trust, the relationships of working together. We're all in this together. It's at Sydney. I'm here in Sydney today, and a lot of the offices aren't full. Maybe they're slightly fuller than New York, but not much. My colleagues in Melbourne, they're in lockdown. Our staff in the Philippines, they haven't been able to get out of their apartments. It's once in 100 years, but you're absolutely spot on. It's about those friendships, about those relationships. And it's also encouraging to see how we are moving forward and using this challenging time to look at our own businesses and our own ways of working and seeing how we can turn that into a great positive. And that's what I feel like it's been the encouragement here but it takes effort, as you say, it takes effort,
right.
It takes focus. And that skin in the game. One of the things that's been great about the relationship between Microsoft and Oxford and Brookfield and us is that skin in the game. Come on, we're going to do this together. Right. It's not about this taking. It's about giving. So in wrapping up, Kevin, what excites you about technology and digital twin that you could share with our viewers?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I think in wrapping it up, we've covered a lot of those things. I think ultimately there's an opportunity here for those amongst us who are willing to lead by example.
Yes.
And doing so is individuals or individual companies is I do not think going to be as successful as it will be where we join arms, align our strategies, our execution, our risk taking, and use that alignment as a force multiplier. So, again, thank you very much for having Brookfield Properties and me here to speak with you today. It's very exciting, and we're looking forward to doing more great things together.
That's amazing, Kevin. Thanks for sharing with us. It's late there in New York City. It's awesome to see you in the office, though. So thanks for dialing in. For those in Willow World, we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kevin.
team.